Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 Podcast. My name's Palm.
And I'm Andy.
And together, we are Chrono Passion 7. Hello, and welcome back to your favourite watch-related podcast. Well, we're off to Watches and Wonders, and this show is all about what we're going to see, what we're going to do, who we're going to see, and what watches we're going to look at. But before I carry on, we have the return of the third host, the distinguished gentleman of the channel. We have the lean, mean watch journalist machine, Mr. Martin Green. Welcome, Martin. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Par. You always know how to make me blush.
How are you?
I'm good. I mean, I'm rallying up for Watches and Wonders, so it's busy time, making all the plans, setting up all the meetings. It's actually crazy. It's a lot of work, but I'm very excited about this edition of Watches and Wonders.
Yeah, it's right around the corner for us, and really pleased to have you back on the show, Martin. It feels like it's been quite a while since we've been able to connect, and I think it's just because we've all just been so busy, right? And yeah, it's going to be great to get into what's going to be happening at Watches and Wonders, what maybe some of our predictions are, and which brands we are looking forward to see. But before we get into that, the most important question I do have to ask is, Martin, what are you wearing today? What's on the wrist?
I want to add to that. We're all together again. We're having a nice little whiskey together. What's on your wrist and what's in the glass? Tell us, Martin.
On the wrist, I actually have the Le Bon Sotomora. And I did that on a special occasion. This is, by the way, a very special edition. It's the dark edition, but this one is actually signed by the master architect himself. He actually scribbled on the oscillating weight, so that makes this a very special watch to me. And as Sotomora is actually a Portuguese architect, I thought I put a nice whiskey in my glass with a port cask finish. It's a bit of an unusual whiskey, actually, because it's a Cavallan, and that sounds, of course, I think actually it sounds a bit Scottish. I might insult people from Scotland right now, but it's actually from Taiwan. Yeah, I had no idea they made whiskey in Taiwan. But unfortunately, my father passed away last year, and he was a whiskey drinker. I'm a whiskey drinker. My mother is not a whiskey drinker, and as I don't have any siblings, I got the whiskeys. I had no idea he had this. And I looked it up, and it's actually quite a nice whiskey. They made it, they started making whiskey in 2006, which is quite recent. But what makes it so unique is that they only use local ingredients. And because they have a subtropic climate, the whiskeys age faster than they would in, for example, Scotland. It matures much nicer. So I must say it's a very nice dram.
Sounds brilliant. Yeah.
Very nice. So, Andy, you tell us what you've got in the glass, what you've got on your wrist first, and then also in the glass.
Of course. Well, I'm sure it comes as no surprise as to which watch I am wearing. I've gone for the Tudor Submariner 76-100. I think you both have seen it maybe too many times in the WhatsApp group by now. I love it. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a watch which I've owned in the past and I finally revisited. And I'm so glad I did come back to this piece. So keeping it simple, that's what's on my wrist. And for the drink, I've gone for a Dewar's 12. So nothing too flashy. But I've got to say, it's got some really nice notes now that ice has just melted into it a little bit. I don't normally do ice in whiskey so much. I like to have it more neat. However, I read that under recommendations, this whiskey in particular comes more alive when you add ice to it. I've got to say, I'm getting some nice vanilla and honey notes at the moment. And yeah, it's very, very smooth, very drinkable, which is maybe a little bit dangerous. But that's what I'm enjoying. And Palm, I'm going to bounce the question back over to you. What's on the wrist and what's in the glass?
On the wrist is an icon I have been after for, 14, 15 years. I put it off. I've said yes. I've said no. I forgot about it. I've come back to it. And the time was now. I am wearing a Breitling Navitimer A23322, which is from the mid-noughties. reverse panda dial. It's got the slide rule. It's got a chronograph. And I had to have this one, this specific one, the A23322, because I love that winged Breitling logo. And I just can't stop looking at this watch. There are watches that you have and you kind of like, oh, yeah, that's nice. I love this watch. Yada, yada, yada. This one, it feels like I've owned it for 10 years or something. It feels very much at home on my wrist. I've bought a new strap for it as well, which is a burgundy Rios alligator printed leather strap, calfskin strap, and it looks absolutely stunning. Love this watch. It does have the date at 4:30, which might polarize some people, but I don't care. I just think it is absolutely beautiful. It has the Valjoux 7753 movement in it, 42-hour power reserve. Stunning, beautiful, busy dial, but you'll never get bored of looking at this. So that's what I've got on my wrist. And in the glass, I've gone Japanese. You went Taiwanese, Martin. I've gone Japanese. So I've got the Suntory Hibiki Master Select. It's a nice mix of flavors. I'm going to go all Grand Seiko on you here. And it's made of 10 distinct malts and grains, including Yamazaki, Hakushu, and Chita. They were carefully aged in 5 different types of cask prior to blending. But yeah, obviously you can tell I'm reading it off the internet.
You reading the label.
Yeah, just reading it off the internet.
ChatGPT generate a description.
Yeah, but no, but this is a beautiful whiskey. I've got more into smoky whiskies. I think we're at the tail end of the winter and it just keeps you warm. And the smoky whiskies really do something for you in those colder months. But now it's time now to have a bit of the sweeter stuff. And that's what I've got in the glass.
Is it quite peaty, than the texture to it, the flavour?
No, I can kind of taste vanilla-y,
okay,
sweet. It's not peaty. It's very sweet, but not too sweet. It's got like I say, it's got a malty, grainy taste, but just nice, smooth, very, very smooth. You can get some where you just, oh God, what's that? But this is it just trickles down the throat, shall we say?
Very nice. It sounds like we've all got good watches on, hopefully. And some great drinks. So let's get into it. What's new? I think we just need a general catch up, right? First,
yeah, let's have a catch up. We've not met Martin.
What's been happening?
God knows how long.
Well, we talk every day. Actually, I think almost every day we do speak
on WhatsApp. It's not the same
on
thing.
WhatsApp.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Yeah,
it definitely is not the same thing, and it's great to be back at this show. What's new? Not so much, actually. It's more like catching up. Just make sure you got all the articles ready, prepping some articles for the new show, and seeing a lot of previews. And of course, that's a bit of a challenging topic here because I'm not allowed to disclose what we're gonna see at Watches and Wonders. But despite all the previews, because to be honest, most previews are digital, so it will be great to actually get my hands on the watches themselves. So, but I'm also curious because you guys are also going to Geneva for Watches and Wonders. I know that you also have a busy schedule lined up. So please tell me, what are you guys looking forward to?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think to kick things off, it just feels amazing to have been invited once again to the expo. I remember it was always a dream of ours to actually go, and the previous year, as you can be aware, when you're a new outlet, when you're a new journalistic outlet, it's quite a battle just to get on the radar of the brands you need to be on, the brands which need to be seeing you in order to get invited to the event. So we're just very grateful to be there for the second year this time. As in terms of the brands, I won't speak on Palm's behalf, but I'm extremely excited to see Moser. H. Moser are a brand we respect a lot, and they always just do really fun, exciting pieces, very unique dials using crazy materials as well. Another brand, which I don't know, it's tough. But I'm quite excited for Vacheron to see what they're up to for the 170th. I know we've seen the 222, but I'm curious, and I open this up to you guys as well. What possibly could be next? Like, is that the ace? Or do you, and this might be a tough question because maybe Martin knows, but Could we be seeing another variant of a 222? Would you like to see that? Would you like to see them do something different? Like, it's cool that the heritage model is back. It's in steel now. But where can they take that? What's next? Or do you think it'd be a completely different piece? So that's an open question. Palm, feel free. Martin, whoever wants to take it.
I'll take this one. I think they'll stick with the 222. I think they'll stick with the I'm looking at Martin's expression as I speak, so I can pick up on what they're doing.
You're reading.
I'm just reading his mind. No, I think, personally, I think they'll stick with the steel and the gold for now, for this year. I don't think there's much they can do complications-wise on that watch, because it's quite a small watch. I've seen it in person. I've had it on the wrist. And it's something that looks to me like it's always going to stay a three-hander. And I think steel was as revolutionary as they're going to go this year, at least. I think it's all about the overseas for them, what they do with the overseas. Last year they did the titanium tourbillon with the blue enamel dial. They did the retrograde traditionnel. And I think they'll just vary on what they've done, because that's what they do best. I'll tell you what, I'll say one thing about Vacheron. The 56, I don't think they've really updated that catalogue too much. We might see something special there. You never know.
Okay. And Martin, would you like to add anything to that?
Are we right? This is a dangerous road to go around. We'll skip that.
Let me add to this that I think if there's one brand that has always been very good at nurturing their past, it's been Vacheron. One of the things that I think is always very typical of them is at Watches and Wonders, or SIHH, what it was called before, Watches and Wonders, they never just focused on one thing. You know, they always have like this crazy complex piece. You know, last year it was that stunning pocket watch. And then they throw in some ladies' pieces, and then they do some extensions to current collections, and they have usually one or two hero pieces. So I don't think they will deviate from that. Vacheron will be like very consistent as they always be. It would be interesting to see if they will turn the 222 into, like a historic capsule collection, or that they're actually going to make a full-blown collection out of it. Although, in honesty, I think it looks amazing as a three-hander, but for example, when you put in a chronograph, I think it's probably going to get a little bit too busy. Plus, they have also the challenge that it shouldn't be cannibalizing. Key question for most brands is, that you don't expand your collections to such an extent that they're gonna actually eat away clients from your other collections, because basically you want to have clients from other brands, not your own clients that pick something else. But what I do think, if I may say so, what's going to be very interesting is that Watches and Wonders is this year even larger than it was last year, with a lot more brands added to the roster. A lot of small brands, but Bulgari made a change. So they were usually at Geneva Watch Days. They usually also had a show, or they usually showed watches during Watches and Wonders in the city center. Right now they're they're not back actually. They used to be at Baselworld, but now they're also at Watches and Wonders. I think that's going to be a big change, and along with a lot of smaller brands. And I'm actually very excited to see so many of the smaller brands added to the roster, also because it adds something extra in terms of affordability. I mean, of course, Lang & Söhne, Vacheron, Patek Philippe, amazing brands, but they never come cheap. And of course, they also shouldn't come cheap. But it's also nice when you look at some watches that you actually think like, oh, that's nice, and it's much easier to afford. Of course, we had Oris. That was already part of Watches and Wonders. We can also welcome brands like, I don't know if you're familiar with Meistersinger. They were very famous for their one-handed watches. It's really a fun brand. You should check it out when you're there. I think it's going to be a good vibe at the fair.
I think you're right. The lesser-known brands could really be big stars of the show. There's one brand I like, which isn't cheap, but it's Artia. They make some incredible sapphire cases which change color with different lights. And that's what the spectacle is. Right? So Rolex, Tudor.
I'm actually quite surprised that you like Artia.
Well,
I know
I'm a
it's an
man of
amazing
many
brand, but
surprises.
it seems to be so far away from your personal style.
No,
He's a
but
man
it's
of
what they
mystery,
do.
this Palm.
No, it's like I couldn't buy an. I think the price is out of my price range. But what they do, this is what I was alluding to, was this is the spectacle, the greatest show on earth when you've got brands that can do things that use science and technology and wow you, like they do with their sapphire cases. And we saw them last year, and we weren't that familiar, but they left a lasting impression. I met them once in London as well, and we're going to see them again. And it's just like, I look forward to seeing them now, because it's the art, the artisan, it's the technology. That's what, would it be a watch I would buy? Like I've explained why I wouldn't, but that's the fun of the greatest show on earth, right? You want to see something that wows you. You won't have it at home, but you want to be entertained.
In that case, you also must like Louis Monet.
I did like Louis Monet. I remember we didn't get a chance to go in, but I saw the 5 planets, or was it 5 space material watch. Louis Monet is incredible. That is old world sophistication with a real modern take. They've really got that balance right, I think. Louis Monet is, it's something I look forward to seeing. And it is, again, all the fun of the fair, as they say.
Yeah. To get our hands on, though, would be incredible this year. Hopefully we can. What I'd add to that is, like Martin was sharing there's more new brands there this year. And I think that's great. And again, an open question, but I feel this is maybe due to now public days being a thing with Watches and Wonders. It's not just an exhibition to get really good, top quality press coverage, right, of the latest releases from all the major brands. It's now a different platform on top of that now, where these brands have the opportunity to interact direct with their potential future clientele or current clientele. And it creates a whole different relationship. And I think that's maybe why we're starting to see these smaller brands now going, okay, we want to pay to be in this event now, because we have that platform to, one, get the coverage from the press, but secondly, actually engage face-to-face with customers. And it's customers from all around the world, right? It's a global event, really, where everybody from around the world comes to that one focal point for like the biggest watch event in the world. So I think it's a great opportunity for these brands, and it's just a completely different showcase, which it was back in the past. So yeah, I think that's a really cool thing to see. And I think what excites me the most is just the innovation, like you were touching on there, Palm. It's just, maybe it's not a watch you can acquire for various different reasons, or it's maybe not something you personally would add, but it's something you admire. It's just fantastic to see innovation. And one thing that always blows my mind, and I've said this so many times, is just every year you see a brand what just blows you away with what they're doing with movements, when you think, okay, what more can you do with a mechanical movement inside a watch? And then next minute there's something new and crazy, right? If it's Piaget doing the thinnest tourbillon, and I'm curious to see what's next, from all of these brands. So it's exciting. One brand which I am curious to see, which is probably the least popular, and I might need help on my pronunciation, but I think it's Georg Husick, or it's Husick Watches now, right? I believe they are at the expo this year, and I'm curious to see what they're about. I've always seen them and been, the originals at least, and been curious of the designs, also of him as a watchmaker. But I'm curious to see what they bring to the table at the show, and just to hopefully get a hands on. But I know, Martin, you're a lot more familiar with the brand.
The correct pronouncement is like Jorg Huisek, but he's not involved with the brand for many years. He sold the brand, and therefore also, although his name is still attached to it, he's not involved anymore. Still amazing watches. They continue the legacy and the design language that he put forward. So it's probably going to be, they're probably going to have some cool watches.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, that's certainly one which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, so going to your open question.
Yes. Look, this is an unplugged show, and we're drinking whiskey, so anything can happen.
So, am I looking forward to Watches and Wonders? I am. It's getting closer, and it's only going to be next week by the time we drop this show. And It's the greatest show on earth. As time goes by, and the more we talk about it, like I remember talking earlier on saying, oh, I'm a bit desensitized to new releases. And now I'm hearing that I'm getting more excited. I am thinking, oh, what's the new GMT master they're going to do? It's the 75th anniversary. Something probably yesterday I was kind of thinking, I haven't got the headspace to even think about it. Will I be underwhelmed? But no, I think no matter what brands, even like Rolex and Tudor, who I love, what they do is incredible. And this is why it's just such a special event, in that you get to see what everyone's talking about straight away. And even if you come on the public days, you get to see it a few days later and you get to have fun. So for us journalists, we work, we run around, we hardly get to speak to each other during the day. But the event itself is, I can see myself now, picture myself walking through the doors of Palexpo, getting through the security, checking your bag in, and then boom. Where am I going to head first? That's a really good question. I mean, I think I'm still kind of, where's Rolex? Because I think that's what everyone in the Instagram sphere will probably be saying. But then once you've got over that, it is, like you say, the Louis Moinets, the Archiers, the Angelus, Arnold & Son, these incredible brands that are we're so privileged that we get to see exhibiting there, that you got to take a step back sometimes and think, yeah, gosh, I got to see pretty much, not all of it, pretty much the whole high-end watch world in one building. And it's just an incredible experience. Really looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's going to be unbelievable. And Andy and I are going to be, we're going to be running around like, not headless chickens. We're just going to be running. We're more experienced now. And Martin, going back to that question you asked, this year, I don't have to pinch myself. I don't think. I still think it's just, I know we went last year. We feel we don't have the imposter syndrome. We don't have the, what are we doing here? Oh, wow, wide-eyed and naive. It's going to be really nice to have been there and to just see people we met there last year as well, all in that same environment, and to see yourself as well in person.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to have a small beer.
I still have that goosebump feeling. When you walk through the booths that are actually quite familiar to me, but I still feel like, wow, I'm really here. They let me in.
Yeah.
It's almost like a surprise when my badge is working, and then you firsthand, because I feel it's a privilege to be there. I do think you put that nicely, Parm. And
it is amazing.
I also think
but that's the fact that you think that as well. No, the fact that you think that as well shows how big a spectacle it is.
It is a big spectacle, but I think it's also the beauty is that you have so many people in one building that all share the same passion on all the sides of the industry. You have the people from the brands themselves who worked like sometimes even years on the watches that they're going to introduce to us this year. Then you have us journalists that are allowed to tell the beautiful stories about these watches. Of course, don't forget the retailers, because Watches and Wonders is not all about the journalists. It's also very much about the retailers and basically, filling the order forms. And then, of course, we have the public days where the general public can visit the fair and see the watches themselves firsthand. That's what makes it so unique, I think. Nobody needs a mechanical watch. The technology is obsolete. I mean, there's really no reason for watches to still be in existence, but there's still this incredible passion that makes it a multi-billion-dollar, euro, pound industry that is still going, and I mean,
So you're right. You're
that
right.
always
So
blows
I
my
have a question,
mind, to
a
be
non-Watches and Wonders related question, but it's a watches question to you both, an open question. What does a watch mean to you? It's not something we need really anymore. I still check the time on my watch. I do. I'd rather get my phone out. I do. But let's face it, we don't have to have thousands of pounds on our wrist or hundreds of pounds. So, Andy, what does a watch actually mean to you then? What does it represent?
So that's a really good question. But for me, it represents a lot. because if it wasn't for watches, I wouldn't be sat here recording the show with you two. So it represents a lot to me in my, let's say, later adult life. That's maybe a bit wrong. I'm not that old, but the next phase of my life, if you like. So when I look at the watch, it's not just the watch itself, but it's a world what it's opened. The doors for watch has opened for me, and the people who I've met, the friendships I have made. And I see watches very much like art. It's not just like a high value luxury object. It's the passion of my personal passion for watches, but the passion what's been put in from the designer who drew the design of a watch, the engineering, the watchmakers who designed the calibers, kept pushing the boundaries to make them, shock resistant. Basic things like this, just constantly innovating, is so much kind of magic. And I think it's something so nice about something mechanical in the era of AI, right? And technology just taking over, and it's just stepping back from all of that busyness and appreciating, moments in time, sharing a whiskey with your friends and just being in that moment. And I think that's what's important for me, and that's what a watch does for me. It doesn't matter which watch I am maybe wearing. It just represents just appreciate time and never take it for granted, I think. So yeah, maybe a bit of a deeper context to that, but yeah, that's what a watch means to me. But yeah, how about yourself, Martin?
After this, what more can I say? I mean, you've said it all, Andy. I think it's almost like a gateway to another universe. It's something from the old days that sticks there. It's tradition, it's values. But like you say, it's also friendship, because I mean, it's more than just a status symbol around your wrist. It's. I mean, I've made so many friendships through watches. I mean, people that mean a lot to me. But now I'm gonna actually basically saying the same thing as you're already. What also is to me watches, at least the watches that I personally own, because I'm just coming in and going out just to test for reviews and stuff like that. Of course, I don't get to keep those. But if I look at my personal collection, my watches also watches. I have watches that I actually don't touch in the winter and only wear during the summer because they're my summer watches. I once took them on vacation or something, so I have this connection with them. I also have connections, with family members that are not there, but I'm now the custodian of the watch that they used to wear. So you have that emotional connection with it. And sometimes you just feel like a certain watch. I sometimes have that. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I need to have that on my wrist. And don't ask me why, but that watch then represents my mood for at least a couple of hours that day, because I tend to change a lot. But I mean, I think it's also a way we express ourselves. And it's easy to say, oh, you wear something expensive, so, you just want to show off. No, it's not like that. When you're wearing something really expensive. I mean, I don't think people buy a Grubel Force, just to show off, like, oh, look at this. I mean, maybe if you're in a certain kind of environment, or that is the case, but...
in a scene, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be a scene, exactly, Parm. But I think all the people I know bought watches because they really like them. And of course, I mean, it's also fun that, if you wear a certain brand and other people recognize it, but usually it's more like the connection than that some people think like, oh, you're wearing something expensive. I get a lot of comments on my Instagram, and I don't think they're always very nice, because some people, they just send one word, price. They don't even bother to put a question mark behind it. You just want to know the price, but that it's not about the price,
I'll stop doing it, Martin.
If you want to get the watch, you need to be able to afford it.
I know it annoys you. I'll stop doing it.
It was a monologue, wasn't it? Yes, it was a monologue. I'm sorry. I'm stopping doing it? Saying, when am I stopping?
No. Let me... you carry on with that. I'll stop sending you those messages, Martin, on Instagram, because I know you don't like it.
Sorry. Sorry, yes. Well, yeah, but I don't understand it. But you always know if people are not into watches, because then the first question is that, oh, isn't that expensive?
How much was that?
And the funny thing is actually the look on their face. Yeah, exactly. How much was that? Oh, yeah. The funny thing is actually when I explained to them that in our world, for them, for example, Rolex is the most expensive watch brand in the world. Well, in our world, I mean, it's still
Many
as
more,
a
much more
a
expensive.
substantial price tag, but yeah, there are so many brands that go beyond that. It's not about that. At least to me, it's not. Of course, you need to be able to afford it, but at any price range, there are so many watches that you can enjoy. And after that, I'm going to stop my monologue. What I sometimes even have is that I'm putting on like this really nice Seiko or G-Shock, and it's like $500. And then I'm like, why on earth do I spend so much more when this is already so good? But then again, I put on something, that is much more expensive. And I'm like, wow, like this is the thing. I mean, one thing that actually stood out to me was last year, I got a very, very nice Laurent Ferrier, the annual calendar.
Ooh,
An
wow.
absolutely breathtaking piece. Price tag of 80,000 euros. But I loved it so much that the price tag, I can't afford that. But it didn't mean anything to me. So,
did you get that to review or you bought it? Sorry, it's not clear.
Yes, I reviewed that. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
No, I don't. Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's good.
buy
It sounded like you had it. Okay,
it.
just yeah.
It's already back.
Yeah.
No. Oh, sorry. No. I would love to have it, but well, they have to do a discount.
Special discount. Journalist discount.
Very special discount, to be honest.
Talking about the event, Watches and Wonders, just putting together all of what we said. Watches and Wonders is the event we go to. It's the premier watch event. It's replaced Basel World. Watches and Wonders. The Wonders bit, no one really talks about. That's what we're going for as well. And it's just an amazing time, an amazing event, and just wonderful. A wonderful place to be and a wonderful scenario to just... You are in your element. If you're a watch person, you are in your element there. You're just like... Because you'll find a brand that it doesn't have to be the biggest, because you've got all your hype brands, shall we say. I don't like to use that word too much, but you have your very high-end hype brands, and then you have brands that no one knows about unless that's a brand they buy into. What I'm trying to say is it's a wonderful event, and watches just make us feel a bit warm and fuzzy inside, I think.
Also, the whiskey.
Well, you said you felt warm and fuzzy inside.
Oh, is that the whiskey? Oh, it could be. It's a good whiskey. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's a good whiskey. It could be that.
Before I have another question, but before we go into that question, just Palm, you asked such a great question to myself and Martin. Is there anything else you would like to add from your perspective as well? Or did we cover the spectrum?
I think you covered the spectrum there. Plus, it makes me feel really rich. No. No, it doesn't at all. It doesn't matter what watch you got. Someone has got a more expensive watch. It doesn't matter. Someone's going to have a bigger brand. Someone's going to... People talk about going to Dubai Watch Week. It doesn't matter what you've got. The watches there are just out of this world. And no, it just makes me feel... To me, it's like a part of a uniform. I think I've touched on this in previous shows as well. Andy will know. It's just... You wear nice... You like to have nice things. You like to wear nice things. And a nice watch is one of those. Plus, yeah, the mechanical side, the aesthetics... It just, makes you who you are. People are defined by their watches sometimes. People are known as the guy with this watch, or the guy with that watch, or the girl with this watch, the girl with that watch. It's a very defining object in our world as well. Oh, that's the person with the, whatever, the 5711, or that's the person with the Artia. You could say that, you'll know people. The person with the jaune, that's the person who had...
That's why nobody knows me then.
Well, they know you for many watches. Just not that long. But no, that's what I think. Yeah, but then...
With Andy, it's more like watch of the
week.
week.
What's the flavor of the week? Yeah, it's like the soup of the day.
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well with the Tudor. It's not going anywhere, the Tudor. But I'm not going to try and defend myself. I'm just going to let time do the telling on that one. But it will be here on my wrist next year. But let's see. You probably don't believe me, so I'm not going to try and convince either of you. I think one important aspect to touch on, if we haven't convinced our listeners enough, but we have listeners from, all around the world now, which is mental still for me to comprehend. However, from both your experiences now being at Watches and Wonders, like obviously, Martin, you've been for many years now. Palm, it's your second year there. What would you say to a listener who's considering or who's deliberating, should I go, should I not go, is it worth going? Like, what can you say that experience would be for them? And also, just how to navigate the event. Where do you start? Because it is quite overwhelming. Where do you begin?
I think the public days are a totally different experience from what we go through. We go through at work. We're running around a lot. You do get, it's good fun. They look after you. I think it's a good place to go with a group of people who are all watch lovers who you know. You hang out together. It's like a little mini trip, a weekend trip, but with the latest watches that have been released that everyone's talking about. Again, it's not the cheapest place to be. Geneva is not a cheap place. And during Watches and Wonders, unfortunately, hotel prices do seem to sometimes treble in price. If you're happy to do that, I would say absolutely come on down. But again, it's a great place to be, but it isn't the be all and end all. I'd say if it's a financial constraint or if it's going to put you out in any way, I think go if you can, enjoy it. Company, I think, is one of the most important things in something like this. Going with a group of friends, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe people have been on their own and they've enjoyed it. But I just think it's a real social, sit down with your watch friends, talk the latest watches. We could sit down in a pub and talk watches or at a bar or whatever. But this is where you're seeing the newest releases with the biggest brands. Okay, you're not going to get everything on your wrist, but you'll see it. And you'll be around the brands. You'll be around that atmosphere, the buzz that's happening in Geneva it's Geneva Watch Week as well. They make a big deal out of that. But it comes at a price. That's what I just want to say. What do you reckon, Andy?
I think, extremely valid. Like, we always want to encourage our listeners to enjoy these events as well. But obviously do it only if you think it makes sense to do so. There's many, many other amazing opportunities, many other different watch events. Also, I think it is a good segue into it. Like you touched on it, the Watch Week. There's many other things going on around Geneva at the time of Watches and Wonders. So you have all the brands in, the Four Seasons, like Jacob & Co., for example. You have the Beau Rivage with numerous brands in the suites, similar to like a mini Geneva Watch Days, for example. And of course, you've got Time to Watches right next door, this time to the expo. So there's a lot to see, a lot to do, I think, for maybe more for the public than ourselves, because pretty much all our time will be at Watches and Wonders, but there's a lot for the public to go and see, as well as going to the expo, right? Yeah,
and you get AHCI as well. You get to meet top independent watchmakers. You get to meet Ludwig Balois, my current hero at the moment. Just, you get to see people that you will not see. You get to see Sven Anderson. You'll get to see legendary watchmakers. It's Geneva Watch Week. Watches and Wonders is the center point, the pinnacle, shall we say, but there's plenty going on around it as well. That region of the city of Geneva is abuzz with watch chaos. I call it chaos because it is busy.
Well, if I may add to that, there is one thing that we haven't mentioned yet that truly makes going to Watches and Wonders special for watch enthusiasts, and that are the booths. That is an experience you only get when you are there, because they are absolutely impressive. IWC, they usually have they've done everything from crazy planes hanging in their area to last year they had like this exhibition space which was crazy. GG LeCoultre, they also usually showcase their craftsmanship. They sometimes even have like engravers on site that are engraving the case back of a Reverso. You probably remember from last year that Van Cleef and Arpels, they had like this Murano glass forest that they made.
Yes.
And then in the middle, they have these huge clocks with diamonds and everything that actually play because they're automatons. So all of a sudden, you have butterflies flying over the clock and flowers opening and fairies dancing, and which is truly amazing. But that's also only an experience that you get at the fair. And yes, of course, you could look at pictures. To be honest, it's quite different just looking at a picture of a booth than actually standing underneath an America's Cup sailboat as Panerai had hanging in their booth last year. So I think that also adds to the experience.
Yeah, I'd agree. And Tudor had an America's Cup Red Bull, was it the Alinghi Red Bull
yacht the boat?
Yeah, and a little game to play as well. Yeah, so they make it special. And again, it's entirely a decision. I wouldn't, like I say, to me, I would say it's a great thing to see. And if you can get yourself down there, you should. But don't never stress yourself about anything. It's like watches. Don't buy watches they're going to harm you financially.
Well, that is a risk that you're touching now on, Parm, because I still have that, that I go to Watches and Wonders and I see so many amazing watches. And of course, I'm a professional watch journalist, but I'm also a watch enthusiast at heart. So I also see things I'm like, oh, I want to buy that. I want to buy that. And some years I say that a little bit too much. So, I mean, there can be some harm done.
Exactly.
The credit card because
yeah.
Well, the wish list. The wish list
grows.
I wouldn't place an order right away, but some people might do.
Wow. Yeah. All the fun of the fair. Exactly, right?
Yeah, you can get caught up. I think it's the same thing when you go to a boutique. A little while ago, I went to the Tudor boutique in Barcelona. It has just opened quite recently. And I remember going there with a friend, and after walking out, I was like, okay, now I want the boutique edition, the Black Bay bronze. I think it's the Black Bay 58 bronze edition, right? Like, I love that. I think that's so cool. Like you just fall in love with the whole, because that's what a boutique's for, right? It's to give you the essence of a brand and to make you fall in love with it. And equally at Watches and Wonders, it's like mega boutiques there. It blows my mind how they even construct these temporary kind of superstores within the expo, but they do. And that's the risk, like Martin's touching on there. You get caught up in it all. You're speaking with experts from the brand, and yeah, it can really rub off on you. You really start to fall in love with these brands even more so, I think, at these kind of events.
Well, I have the same thing that Andy has, and sometimes you get too excited. Right now, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I now have a cool off period. So when I really get excited about a watch, I'm like, okay, I'm not getting it instantly. Let me first see about it. Actually, I print out pictures of the watch on photo paper, and I usually put it next to my desk of watches that I'm considering getting or adding to the collection, and then I'm like, okay, and if I still get excited after a week or a month, then it might actually be something that it's worth getting. In the past, I've also got very excited about watches that are still amazing watches. They're just not amazing watches for me because it was the atmosphere, spur of the moment, and I was like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. But then after a while, I'm like, yeah, it's still an amazing watch, but it's not my watch. So. But that's always the risk with if going to fairs, if you're going to boutiques, you see a lot of watches and some stick with you, and sometimes you get very excited.
Yeah. Okay. So should we do some predictions? I know we don't want to make it boring. We don't do what everyone else does, but let's just pick a brand, go round robin and think what would you like to see? I'll just say Tudor. I know Andy's going to want to answer this one first because he's now a Tudor fanboy.
Well, yeah, now, I work officially with Tudor, of course. I wish. I've had a few thoughts around Tudor, and there's some comments which, Palm, you have made. So my perspective is a new chronograph. I'm not going to say Palm's element of this because it's his comment, so I'll wait for it to come around to Palm. It'll make sense when it gets back, circles back round to you. However, I do think there could be a new variant of the chrono. And last year, they did something a little bit wild with the gold, right? They did the gold Black Bay 58, which was quite surprising for Tudor. And there's so much of a buzz around the chronographs now with the funky dial colours. And again, I'm leaving some of this for Palm to circle back to. But I could see a solid gold chronograph variant come in. I'd love to see it with some kind of Harrods green. I just think green on gold looks very classy as well. So that's a bit of a wild prediction. If it did exist, it'd be 30k or something, most likely. So it's quite expensive. But that's something I could see them doing. As soon as they did the Black Bay the previous year, why not go, while there's such a buzz around the chronograph, such hype, why not do a solid gold chrono? And maybe bronze gold. Just to, follow trend. Yeah, that's my, let's say wild card prediction there.
That's good. Good shout. So just going on to about the chronograph, so there's been heavy rumours that Tudor will make their own movements in the chronograph and not use the Breitling B01 movement anymore. And I think they've struck gold by making these Miami dials, the flamingo blue and the pink, which is the colours of, was it Inter Miami? David Beckham's football team, and who happened to wear pink and that turquoisey blue. But and it's very Miami Vice as well. It's all
Miami Vice color, isn't it?
No, but the football team they wear those colours in their, and David Beckham is brand ambassador for Tudor as well. It may be coincidence, but I think because Lionel Messi was supposed to be, a big ambassador for not ambassador, but for that watch when it first came out. I think it was seen on his wrist, and plays for Miami. I just think they struck gold by managing to shift a whole load of stock and thinking, right, now we can have, am I right or wrong, Martin? Was it an Only watch where they made their own movement a couple of years ago on a chronograph?
They might.
Yeah. Ironically, they made an Only watch in gold with their own movement in 2023.
Maybe that's where I got the vision from.
With the Prince. It's the Prince chronograph, yeah. Both ideas. And it's in black and gold, which is the colours of our logo. It's our brand colours as well. So there you go. We've got to buy one now. I've just got to sell about 10 watches. But yeah, it was an Only watch.
It's an Only watch. It's a piece unique.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, but the fact that they used the movement, I mean, they had the movement put in there. Their own one. So it wasn't, I don't believe it was a Breitling one. So, it was one of their Kanisi movements. So it has existed in one watch. So they must have done the research and the R&D, research and development on just that one watch. Could they go commercial with it all? Could they drop it onto the public? That could be another thing. But again, this is a rumor that's been circulating for a few years now. It's a bit like the Coke, GMT Master 2 Coke coming back, and the Tudor Submariner coming back, and the Explorer Polar Dial, Explorer 1 Polar Dial. This is the same old one. So I think the Tudor Chrono is kind of one of those urban myths, possibly. But it could happen.
We need those too, because then we keep talking about it. It's also fun to talk about watches that aren't there yet or never will be, or, it's just...
Yeah. So, Martin, I've rambled on for quite a while now. What do you think Tudor will do? Or wish Tudor will do?
Those are two different things. I think Tudor will move more into colors They usually do far more variations of existing watches than the hero pieces that are mainly shown to the public. So when you have your meeting with them, at least last year, they have these trays of watches with different types of dials, different bracelet variants. They're actually quite good in like expanding, fine tuning their collection. But of course, I don't know if you heard it, but the brand is in a bit of a tight spot as sales has not been what they need
Oh,
to be
really?
or used to be. Yes, yes. I think like Rolex was up like 5%, and I think Tudor was down like 23, top of my head, percent, which is enormous. Of course, we're not going to see that in these watches probably yet because it takes time to develop a watch, which is also something else because a lot of the brands at Watches and Wonders, or at least a few of the big brands, they have new CEOs. But we're not going to really see if they're going to change the signature of the brand because most of them have not been there for long enough. For example, we got a new CEO at Zenith. We got a new CEO at Hublot. GG LeCoultre has a new CEO. Van Cleef & Arpels has a relatively new CEO. Same for Cartier and Vacheron. So we're really probably going to see some things moving around in there. So if some things going to move around at Tudor, that's probably also going to be next year. If I may do some wishful thinking, I always liked the Tudor Advisor, that very clever alarm watch that they had in their
I've seen
collection
one of those.
a couple of years back. Oh, I would love to see that make a bright comeback with, well, maybe a little bit more sporty or something, I think that would be cool. I also think that would give Tudor an edge because there are not that many alarm watches out there. GG LeCoultre, of course, still has the Memovox, and there are a few other brands that still do alarm watches like Vulcan. But I think that might actually be something that I would love to see on a personal level at Tudor.
North Flag as well.
This is wishful thinking from my end. So I'm not going to make it a Merble it.
That's good whiskey. The Taiwanese know how to make whiskey. Excellent.
I think if I drink enough of it, I'm actually be able to speak Taiwanese.
Probably. So I think we've hit our time. We've previewed Watches and Wonders, and it's time for us to now jump on that plane and head there. Oh, closing thoughts, guys. Martin.
Great to be back on the show. Really looking forward to Watches and Wonders and see you two live and maybe even some of your listeners. So, and of course, finally get my hands on all those new watches and try them on. And in the end, it's still kid in the candy store, eh? Kid in the candy store.
Of course. Goes with the territory. So, Andy, do you want to lead us out the show? Lead us to Geneva.
Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately in this case, as when we drop this, it is time to go. So we're packing up all our equipment, panicking, making sure we have everything. I'd be waiting for Palm for 2 hours, I think, this time in the airport. So that's a lot of quiches, a lot of coffees, and a lot of beers.
You'd be drunk.
While I wait. I'd be drunk, but nothing new there. No, I'm joking. Extremely grateful to be there again, extremely humbled, and Martin said it perfect. It's like being a kid in a candy store, really, really excited to... It never gets old, these kind of things. I get excited for every single event we go to, no matter the size of the event. So I will do the classic sign-off. We've not plugged the website for the whole of the show, but I think by now everybody knows the website. But please go visit www.chronopassion7, as in the number 7.com. On there, you will find all of the show notes, so you'll have more detailed images of the watches we have discussed. In this case, it's more of a different kind of conversation. If there's any way I can make some mock-ups...
No, don't promise mock-ups.
Maybe I'm digging myself a hole.
Mock-ups.
I'm not going to promise mock-ups. But yeah, please check out the show notes. There will always be something there. And it's always good. It's a good place to centralize all of your comments as well. So I know many of you reach out to myself sometimes, and as well Palm, and also on our main Instagram account. But we do love interaction on the website. It's easy to track. And yeah, it's great if you can drop a comment on there. Anyway, enough rambling from my side. I will sign off. So it is adios and hasta luego. And I will speak to you all on the next one.
And as Andy says, farewell from Barcelona in Spain. And I don't think it'll be a kid in a candy store. He might be an Andy in a candy store. But Martin, is there anything you want to say to the listeners before you go?
Andy in the candy store.
An Andy in the candy store.
All right, sign off, Pam.
It's been dangerous now.
Right. Okay. Right. So, looking forward to getting on that plane, getting to Geneva. Big decision what watch to wear. But from London, it's Toodle Pip and laters, and we'll see you and you'll hear us in the next one.